Now let's go to these leaked messages from Chinese-sponsored hackers that show they were hired to target the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. The think tank is often critical of the Chinese Communist Party and its foreign interference and aggression in our region. ASPI is such an irritant to China that China included it on its list of 14 grievances to Australia in 2020. Now, the coalition government would never have dreamed of giving in to any of China's demands, but now, under Albanese, its funding could be on the chopping block. The head of Albanese's department, his hand-picked appointee, Glyn Davis, has announced a review of think tanks, including ASPI. Leading that review, Peter Varghese. Now, the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet has defended the unusual decision to put Varghese in charge of a review of government funding for think tanks, given he already chairs a separate think tank called AsiaLink. The government told me that all conflicts of interest, real or perceived, had been disclosed. Now, ASPI Executive Director Justin Bassey told the journalist James King, who uncovered the plans to hack it, that this revelation is a sad reminder that the Chinese Communist Party will try to suppress any source of legitimate criticism. So now it seems that the Albanese government may acquiesce to China's demands to defund ASPI, and that is the concern. Now, joining me now, the journalist who wrote this story in the Nightly, James King. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
well done on this extraordinary investigative report. Can you tell me about some of these leaked messages that you obtained from the state-sponsored hackers who discussed targeting ASPI?
Unlike the hackers sponsored by other foreign governments, those of the People's Republic of China tend to be more fluid. The hacking groups that the Chinese government engages are less organised. One of the implications of that is that they tend to find their own way to each other and they tend to coalesce in their own groups. On this occasion, they formed a group, they came together, and I found my way to that group where they were openly discussing their work and their targets. They appear to have successfully compromised a South Korean power plant. And
so they were successful in hacking a South Korean power plant, but there's no evidence that they did actually succeed in hacking ASPI.
Correct.
They were just discussing it.
Correct.
You also got hold of some amazing internal Chinese National Security Agency directives. What were they saying in these directives from the intelligence agencies in China?
So these hackers working for the Chinese government were sharing these documents to each other, seeking each other's assistance on hacking operations. And the documents quite clearly directed the hackers, as per Article 7 of China's national security law, to support the Chinese government's hacking operations and to hack the targets of the Chinese government. And ASPI is one of those.
And that security law that you reference, I mean, that's the one that has the intelligence agency so concerned about with TikTok and other Chinese-owned companies, because anything that gathers private user data, those companies could be compelled to provide it to the government. I mean, it's literally in their law.
That's right. And it's those same orders that I published that could easily be sent to a ByteDance employee, the TikTok parent company, requesting that information of Australian user data from ByteDance employees in China.
Now, ASPI doesn't hold classified information, it doesn't hold secrets, but there are former intelligence officials who work there and do research projects. The work does end up in government agencies. Why would it be such a target of China?
ASPI does a range of work, much of which the Chinese government has repeatedly expressed over years it does not like. One of those has been its extensive research over a number of years into the abuses of ethnic minorities in China, Turkic Muslims, including the Uyghurs, where Human Rights Watch estimates more than 1 million people are held in camps across China. It's been ASPI's research in this space that has brought enormous attention to the issue. And ASPI routinely publishes reports pointing to online foreign influence operations of the Chinese government. And it's that disruption that the Chinese government appears to dislike.
Yeah, very interesting how Penny Wong never seems interested in those poor souls who are in the concentration camps in Xinjiang, but you know, we hear her criticising Israel every day. I'm not expecting you to comment on that. I'm commenting on that. Just before you go, you also broke a fascinating story about a Canberra cafe that services spies, diplomats, intelligence agency insiders, and it's actually owned by the spouse of a Chinese politician who'd been honoured by Xi Jinping himself.
Yes, and that spouse was honoured in the People's Great Hall of China 3 months before Xi Jinping hosted Anthony Albanese in that same hall. Now, the husband became a Chinese politician in the same month that his spouse became a majority shareholder of that cafe, and a former senior intelligence community senior executive who was frequenting that cafe during that ownership was unaware and shouted "what" over the phone when I told them the news.
Fascinating stuff. You're doing amazing work. Thanks so much for your time, James.
Thanks, Sharri.